What is going on? What is going on, people? Do I sound? I feel like I sound processed or something. What do
You,
you?
yeah,
What do you?
a little bit of a process going on
Yeah, I hear it
a little bit.
like an echo.
Hmm.
All right. Well, let
Very
me
mild, very
fix
mild.
it, and you go ahead and talk about it.
Let's go. Let's get started. We've got a welcome to the Community Beacon. We are back once again. It is February 21st. If you're tuning in on today, and we are glad to be here. You have here with you that gentleman right there with the flat cap on is the great Michael Seville, the real estate king business mogul. He is also a father of fathers. He is also a son of sons. He's a great man and a good friend. Clap your hands for the great Michael Seville. Yes, 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 yes. There it is. That's right, brother. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Let me see. I'm gonna help out a little bit. There it is. There it is. There it is. And I am your other co host. I'm Joel Simmons of the Tenacity Foundation, and we are glad to be here with you on today. We've got a different subject that we're going to talk about today. And I don't want to say it's different in the sense that we haven't discussed it, because we have at some rate in some shape or form. But we're going to dive into something a little bit differently. What is love? This, I think, the team brought it to me and thought it was a good idea. I said, "Man, Mike, I don't know. I was thinking about talking about myself, but what do you think?" And he was like, "Man, okay, let's go with it." So I think that there's a lot to discuss about love. I feel like he's got something else to say after that comment right there.
No, I think it's an awesome intro. Keep going. I'm listening.
Yeah. All right. Well, I feel like there's a lot to say about love, because it's one of those age old types of things. You know, the words of words. This is one word that has significant power. It's incredible what happens when you express love. And we think whoever that was, uh, Meta or Jatandra. Seems like they like this conversation. I don't know who that is, Mike. That's one of you people right there. But shout out to you anyhow. You get it. All right. Yeah. Shout
Oh,
out to
that's
you.
Jay. Shouts out to Jay. Appreciate you, Jay.
There it is, Jay. See,
That
if I
help.
had
That
known Jay, I would have just called you Jay. So please forgive me. All right. Okay. All right. So, well, I mean, but words shape emotions, and I think that love carries a huge amount of emotional, contextually and compactually. It just contains so much. It influences actions. It defines relationships. You know, um, and then when it's used in the right sense, it can be a positive affirmation. When it's used in the wrong sense, or what it could be deemed as the wrong sense, it could be, uh, it could be as if you are imprisoning yourself within inside of of an emotion. So I don't know. We're gonna break this thing down, and hopefully this will be a self-esteem builder and some strength to somebody along the way. And we're gonna keep it moving. What do you say, Mike?
I'm ready. Let's get into it.
All right, all right, it's good to go. Well, first off, what's your thoughts on the word love? Let's just start right there. What are your thoughts? Not what you studied, but just what are your thoughts on the word love?
Oh man, brother, why do we have to start with me? But I, I guess I'm the only one other person here, right?
Yeah, that's
I,
true.
so I appreciate it. I was listening to a song today. I thought it was interesting, especially us diving into this conversation. It's a song with who is it? Freeway and Sauce Walker. Sauce Walker has definitely been one of my top artists on the playlist. So if you check my Apple playlist, that is like I think last year, Sauce Walker probably was like one of the top artists. If you ever had a chance, check out the brother from Houston. I think he's awesome. Definitely living in his gift. And so the song is called "My Own," and it's and there's a bunch of ad libs that are happening, and then it says, Freeway says loves, and love's gonna get you. He says that during the chorus, love's gonna get you, love's gonna get you. And so my appreciation for the word love is probably a little bit different than most people. A lot of us we tend to go emotional with it, and I feel as a who I am, a lot of this stuff has to be grounded in logic. I think the word love, especially in this day and age, it has been shaped. It's been formed to make us believe a certain kind of way of how it is. And I'm gonna tell you the honest truth. Every year around this time, shouts out to everybody I spoke to last week Friday, and I kept saying Happy Love Day. Whoever it was, that definitely the men. It was interesting because I walked into the grocery store, and why did I have flowers? I had flowers. Did I have flowers? Yeah, I had flowers on Friday. And so when I walked in the grocery store and I had the flowers in my hand, the guy was with his wife, and she was like, "Oh, he better get me some flowers too, like that." And I looked back at her and I said, "Well, a Happy Love Day." I said, "His presence alone should be enough." And then she was like, "Huh?" She was like, she was. A lot of people aren't expecting that, right? Because I got the flowers in my hand, and in their mind, it automatically, "Oh, she's giving these flowers to a awesome looking, handsome man like that is walking out with flowers. I'm sure he's going to be giving it to someone." But that wasn't the case. The case was the love is in the presence. So love is about ultimately, I think it encompasses all. You all know that I've done my NLP training, the last 2 years. And one of the things that we did was we had to figure out all these different distinctions in regards to words, and not and it can't be just about feelings, because feelings are it's just something that your body does. It's a stimulus, and those feelings actually come from something, a visual. It comes from, maybe it's an audio, maybe you hear something around you. You see how I pointed to the back? And so in NLP we kind of figure out, like, what is the stimulus so that we can fully define it. And there came a point in the program when I'm working with the coaches, and I said, what, love just encompasses everything. At the at the bare bones of it, it's like it's this all thing. It covers everything. It covers all of the different words that were coming up, all of the different distinctions, if we allow ourselves and we give our permission to get there. So I think I'll definitely, as we get more into this conversation, I'm going to dive into some of the distinctions that I saw, some ways that we use the word, because sometimes we put self in front of the word self-love, which I think is important for the layperson. So I think it's important for me to come into that way. Otherwise, you wouldn't understand me. So understand that when I'm coming with this thought in regards to love, it's not just Valentine's Day and a bunch of different movies that I watched, or this motherly love that we kind of think of. It's an actually in-depth thought of how I came up with this ideal, and more importantly, how can we move forward with this ideal of love. What about you, brother? Tell me about your thoughts on love after that long-winded response.
Yeah, man. I thought that was deep, man. You put that brother on top right there with that comment right there, though. I mean, you definitely set the record straight. And so I like that. I do like that, because I don't think that love is one of those, hey, it's Valentine's Day, so that means I must, or I should, or I ought to love you. I think that love needs to be carried throughout the time. It's a timeless word. And when used appropriately, I think that it encompasses, like you stated, it should encompass all relationships. And I know you didn't say it exactly like that, but that's what I took from what you were producing. And there's a scripture, First John 4:8, it says God is love. And then there's another scripture in First Corinthians, the 13th chapter, that describes love by using the word charity, and how it encompasses all things. It's not something that is just so easily dismissive. It forgives all things. There's a
Yeah.
huge, there's a huge it's a huge undertaking to utilize the word of love, and using it appropriately and correctly. I think that it encompasses so much. I'm liking that word today, encompasses, because I feel like when you brought that in, it really did signify how deep love is. And I think that it has been mixed with feelings of pleasure, connotations of pleasure. And so I don't think that that's the same type of love that all of us are discussing. I don't think that's the same type of love that individuals always are anticipating when they're inside of a relationship. Although, if you look at the defined version of love, then one of the definitions is about affections. And it is about the way that you feel about the way somebody looks or smells and things like that. So there is a a definition that will support that type of love. And I think we'll probably get more in depth to that maybe later on when we start to get into the different definitions of love. But I think just sticking with the thought process of today, moving forward just a little bit, affirmation versus negation, or negative comments. Uh, just in that sense, right there, the power using that word love can be extremely powerful. I remember when I was a kid, that was it. Man, if you wanted that girl, all you had to do was drop the L word on her. Boom. She was yours. I mean, we were confusing girls left and right.
Who's we?
Me and my boy Snoop. Shout out to shout out to Snoop. I don't even know if I want to call his full name on it. He might be wanted somewhere nowadays, you know. But
God
shout
bless
out
the
to my
brother.
boy, you know. But we used to drop that word, man. We would
Mm.
be on the telephone, I don't know if y'all remember this, probably now on the cell phones, but man, we used to have the three-way call on the phone, on the rotary phone. Oh my goodness. Man, we had them girls on the telephone 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, talking with the deep voice and everything, talking about, girl, baby, you know I love you, Barry White in this thing, and it was for us, it was all a ruse. That's what it was. It
Uh-oh.
was all ruse. I mean, it wasn't so much that we loved them at all. It was that, we were being young men and our testosterone has spiked and other things were spiking naturally as well. And we wanted to make those things happen for us. So it was different. It was different. But we use that word love, we use the word as a key to get what we wanted from
Mm.
somebody else. And that's not even getting into affirmations or negations. What you say, bro?
Man, I'm gonna tell you why I love the conversations that we have. Because it's an interesting, because listen to this dynamic, because you're bringing up memories now, and I probably can count on my hands the amount of women, young ladies, even at a young age, that I said I love. And because that word, for whatever reason, had so much weight with me even back then, right? So it was, and that probably, and I'm just thinking, who knows? Like, it could have came from my mother, because she didn't use that word. You know,
Hmm.
she used it sparingly, and so when she did say it, it was like, oh, you know what I mean? Like your ears perked up. And so like I said, I remember there was one young lady. I probably was like in the ninth or 10th grade, and in my mind, I thought I loved her, right? And so I remember we had the phone. Me and my sister had our own phone in the room, and I would go through painstaking ways not to let my sister hear what I was gonna say, hear me say the words. So it when I started knowing that the conversation was coming to a close, I started walking to the door. I closed the door. I walked into my room. I had a small little closet. I walked into the closet and I whispered like, "Hey, I love you." And I can never forget, right? As my sister was, she must have seen the pattern of me doing this. And she put her ear up against the door. When I walked into the room, and I was like, "Yeah, yeah." The other young lady said, "I love you," and I was like, "Yeah, I love you too." I remember my sister busting the door and was like, "I heard you say it," and I said, "God." so it kind of ruined my day. But I would say, like I said, on my hands. So there was a lot of weight. No, I wasn't, I was pretty blunt with people. So there was times when people would say they loved me. These young ladies would say it or whatever as I grew older. And I just wouldn't say it. I'd change the subject. It'd be
Mm.
something different. So there was something interesting to that word. And I say I love getting on the calls with you because, I'm, me. And we spoke about this last week, but I'm like knee deep into Carl Jung right now. And so Carl Jung speaks about the anima, right, which is the feminine, within us. If you thought of us manhood or be masculinity as the yin yang sign, and the majority of it is manhood for a man, there's this little dot, whether it's a white or black dot, and that
Mm.
would, in Carl Jung's book, would represent the feminine, right? So everyone, I say feminine, and some people get upset when I call them feminine or the way it's feminine, but everybody has it in them. So I'll call it your anima. And so we get on these conversations. A lot of this is about allowing your anima to be comfortable. Because back then, what was so hard about it? Like I said, if I just quickly did it, I'm like, okay, that's because we didn't say it in our family like that. So we didn't just use the word like that. However, I'm listening to you and you said this was one of the things that you did. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That was one of the brothers' playalistic ways back in the back in the day, back
Back
in
in the day
the
when I
day.
was
Right.
young, I'm not a kid
So
anymore. But someday,
yeah,
no,
but I do, man. That's an awesome song too,
it is
classic.
awesome. So,
So words of affirmation. Let's get into it uh, as we talk about it because a lot of people fail to have these in their lives because oftentimes we're thinking of you know outside of ourselves.
mm,
Right? That's how it's kind of brought up. Like, oh, you're waiting on your mother or your father to give you that attaboy kind of deal. And what's interesting is that some of our parents withhold it because they know that that may be something that is going to get us motivated or not motivated. So we adopt these thoughts at a very, very early age of how we want to be, quote unquote, stroked according to the games that people play. And some people need more, some people need others. I think the words of affirmation have to start within yourself and you have to accept them for yourself. As we get into this love conversation, it's very, very important that we're aware of what and how do we validate this feeling of love? What is it grounded in? Because there's sometimes and who does it have to come from? Because who someone could tell you, hey, you did a great job, and it just doesn't even mean anything to you. You walk away and be like, yeah, yeah. Sometimes you don't even accept it, right?
mm,
And then sometimes someone gives you that word of affirmation. The brother is going to be seeing his son play basketball, and out of all the people yelling and screaming in the crowd, if his son hears him, say, "Hey, there you go," you know what I mean, or give some, that's like that extra push for him to go further or something. So we're kind of looking for it. But when we get down to the sense of self, and when we start to really understand ourselves, a lot of that comes like with that talk within yourself, that self talk. Some people would say,
mm,
and I had it a lot. And some of us we will work on creating that, especially in the absence of a certain parental figure, whatever that is. So it was like, yeah, I don't, yeah, boy, I remember going to the free throw line, and I had my little, two breaths in before I shot the free throw when I was playing basketball. But I'm talking to myself. Oh, Mike, you got it. Oh, Mike, there you go. And I'm gonna tell you what that happened within me because this is, sometimes it happens later, sometimes it happens earlier, sometimes it happens not at all. But what it allowed me to do was create this really positive sense of self. I started to listen to what it is I had to say when I was getting down on myself. I love validation from everyone. No one can deny that. Hey, if someone tells you good job, we're all kind of looking for it. However, if you develop that really deep and foundational sense of self to where you can tell yourself, because only you know you the best, is like, hey man, let's go. So, that's one of the tangibles I had, and I can just read it off now. Like, start forming that within yourself if you don't already have it. Thank God I had it at that age, but even now, it's certain reminders, and I do it all the time. Sometimes I'm looking at myself in this screen. I'm like, man, good job, Mike. There you are. I'm
There
at
it
the
is.
gym. Yeah, you at the gym. You ever know you catch yourself? And some people might be embarrassed about this stuff. Like they looking at themselves and wondering, oh, I wonder what other people are thinking of me. Listen, look in that mirror and say, hey, oh man, you getting that really good pump now. And start just having that conversation with self, brother. Go ahead. I'm
No, man.
long-winded with it. But
No,
let's get into this words of affirmation.
that's it, man. That's it. I didn't know you were this excited about this conversation, man. I didn't know you was gonna bring fire like that. So, man, I appreciate that because, like, diving into that whole self-value, self-worth is it's imperative, right? As far as our development goes, and you can tell the difference now. I mean, I feel like now I can tell the difference. I'm the type of guy that goes into a room and I can read the room, with the people that are inside of that room, and I can figure out many cases some of the things that they're going through. I'm not, you know, not for nothing, but that's one of my gifts, and I'm working on it so that I can be even better at it. Right? Hafiz, he said on one occasion, "The words you speak become the house you live in." That's so true. If you continue to tell yourself negative words or dismissive words, it becomes a dismissive, negative house. Your body, your mind becomes dismissive and negative in self regards. And that does make it very difficult because for me, I know that I was highly dismissive growing up as a young person. That's the type of individual I was. I don't know where it came from. I really don't. My mother did her very best to plant positivity inside of me. I remember my grandmother doing that, but for some reason, it just didn't settle. It didn't settle. It wasn't though it was inputted, it wasn't in the form, in the foundation. And so for me, I was always like looking for that external validation all the time, external validation. I tend to believe that it came from what's going on, Jomer. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Michael. It's amazing learning so much. Just listen to you guys. All right, good, 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 man. Put some more comments in there about what you find interesting. We love that. But like I, and not throwing any shade at anybody, but I think that the way that I grew up without like having that man figure, I've always attributed a lot of that to not having that person there. And I'll never forget, I had one situation where I was talking to a youth. And when I was talking to a youth, he came to me and he said this to me. He said, "My brother has my father and my sister has my mother. Why don't they care about me?"
Was he a
That's
middle
what he said.
child?
What's that?
Was he a middle child?
He was let's call him adopted,
Okay.
right? And he wasn't living with either parent at
Mm.
that time, and it had nothing to do with it had nothing to do with his parents not loving him. They actually did love him, but he couldn't see that. And so, like, man, the word games that must have been played in his mind, I could understand it because I played those word games in my mind. And I'm gonna tell you something, Mike. Like, I still sometimes those word games will come up in my mind, and I have to go to battle for myself, right? Because now I'm older. I'm older, and I know. Yeah, I can name the people that love me. I can name the people that care about me, and I can tell you how much I care about my own self, and how much I regard my own self, and how much I believe in my own self. But nonetheless, there's a scripture that talks about Satan desired to sift you like wheat, but I have prayed for you. That's what Jesus said to Peter. And it's like, that's the type of mindset that comes up inside of my mind. So the first thing that I start doing is combating whatever that thought was, whichever way it came from, with some type of positive affirmation. Because the house that I live in today has nothing to do with being dismissive. You know, It has everything to do with my accomplishment. It has everything to do with my success. It has everything to do with my tenacity. It has everything to do with my clarity. It has everything to do with my compassion, my love, my thriving, my desire to reach higher heights, and my desire and the strength of myself being okay with who I am. Like, there's so much positivity there. But what you said means so much, man. And I would just have to enter in this. For those of us that are parents out there, remember, what you say does matter. Words do matter. We've talked about this before. Mother Teresa said this: kind words can be short and easy to speak, but their echoes are truly endless. So think about that. When you say something kind to your children, that can echo endlessly inside of their heart, their mind, their soul. On the other end, if you say something negative to them, that too can echo in their heart, mind, and soul. And so you parents are the master builder of your child until they're old enough to be received of God for him to then build them any further through his instruments of whatever, the world, society. God builds us through different means and different measures in different ways. We all are being built at all times. You're being built right now by watching this, or the person who's not watching it is being built by something else. Just like Mike and I are being built by the words that are being shared and the experiences that we have. And that doesn't matter whether we dropped the greatest jewel or whether it wasn't. There's still some aspect of every single moment in time that is helping build us into whatever we will be tomorrow. So just think that and take that as a thought when you start thinking about the words that you're using, right?
I love it, brother. Absolutely. And because we all need to be held accountable for what we're building, not just parents, just people in general. One of the conversations that I had with my father a long time ago was, I said, listen, when we're around the kids, I'm my my parents come from Jamaica, right? And so there's a lot of masculine, all of this, coming from colonialism, the Western way of, this masculine. Some people, I guess in Latin it'd be like machismo or something in Spanish. Like, so there's a lot of that going on. And so we kind of just say, you know what, just buck up, stop being a baby, don't cry, whatever, whatever it is. So it's important that as parents, as we come to the awareness of ourselves, that we're able to validate our children's experience. That doesn't mean that you let up off of them, right? It doesn't. I'm not telling you to let up off of them, because me as a father, I lie to you and tell you. Matter of fact, not I would tell you. Elijah or Paul would tell you. Yeah, he says that. He says that. However, this is some real stuff. So not that you let off of them, but you need to figure out yourself first. I'm always going to go back to self, and then go back and validate, these things that these children have, brother. So I 1000% agree with you in that regards, as far as a parent is concerned. Now, for these young adults, as we come to know ourselves and become aware of ourselves, we need to understand that our parents were not the perfect beings. If you could go back and look at your parents at the age that they were when they had us, and a cousin and I were just having this conversation, like, we're at this age where we,
Which cousin?
this is a cousin he's out of Jamaica. He's actually in Texas right now. Shouts out to him. Uh,
Absolutely.
he mentioned, I'll get to the question definitely after this quick story. He was like, we're at that age where, and so now when we look at that and the compassion we can have for our parents, like, this is not a parent bashing. This is not time for you to bash your parent. If
No,
you,
no, no.
going back to what Young would tell you is that what you're really attempting to do is, because there is a mother and a father, and it's within you. So, your parents did the best they could with the information that they have, I'm sure. Like, we need to start understanding, like, for the most part, and because I want to use my words carefully. For the most part, this is that's their way of showing love, right? So when your parents are telling you to go wash the dishes or just do it like I tell you to do it, and so on and so forth, and don't ask me back, and they come from this authoritative way. Most parents, most of them were making attempts, and I've seen a guy who said that he was beat severely by his father, and you could see the hurt of him being beat. I mean, this guy said he was beat. Chris actually sent me that video where he was beat, and the father put him in salt and pepper with the wounds. Like, we're talking about, you know, chattel slavery kind of whooping that he got. And that's where the father probably learned it from. And he said it took him a while and it took him some understanding, but he understood like that was his father's way of showing him love. Because in his father's mind, it's hard for a lot of people to imagine that if you didn't come from that. But that's the way. It's some fathers who actually are staying away from their kids because that's their way of showing love. And a child will say, even a grown adult, is like, well, how could you love me and you stayed away from me? And he said, because of the way that I'm letting go, I had to let go to show love. Because if I kept on coming around, in my mind, it would have caused chaos. Well, if you loved me, you wouldn't have did that. Nah, that's not the case. This is what he knew or what he thought he knew. And so to have compassion for the parents as a child, it's going to go far in the way of you starting to understand yourself and starting to say, well, and becoming healed in that kind of way. All right. What did Jomer say? Shouts out, Debbie.
Hold
Debbie,
on.
what's going
Man,
on?
you got it. Debbie right there. I had to throw that up there because she's like, absolutely. And before we get back to Jomer's question, man, Mike, all right, dude, that's what you just gave out is life-saving medicine, right? That's medicine. That is one of the, and it's a very difficult thing to be able to grow
Yeah.
into, to accept. Like, you have a lot of growth, you have a lot of introspective, and it's very positive. It's very strong. This, you just mentioned something that was a story in my life right there. And it took me years, decades before I was able to reach what you were just talking about. I mean, and if anybody doesn't believe what I'm saying, like, I'm not just trying to pump Mike up, but all you have to do is look through these Community Beacon episodes, because our life is on open display here. I don't care what it is that we're going through. You're going to eventually hear a piece of it in these different episodes. And if you really wanted to, you can track down these different episodes and put the puzzle together of our life in totality, because it all comes out here. These are literally masterminds from Mike and I, where we talk about some of the things that are tightest and most dear to ourselves in order to help somebody else out along the way. That right there, the way you said that was impressive. These are the types of classes, these are the types of courses, these are the types of environments, these are the types of groups like the gathering. These are the types of conversations that we as men, and you ladies out there like Debbie, these are the types of groups that women and men need to be a part of, so they can be sprinkled with this type of education, this type of knowledge, this type of testimony from time to time. And maybe, just maybe, they may be able to develop the type of mindset that they need to be able to pass through those narrow pathways and be able to overcome the cornerstone experiences inside of their lives. Because the truth of the matter is that we only can deal with what we can deal with at the time that we can deal with it. And getting back to what Jomer has stated, asking if is it true that what a child sees in their parents becomes the basis of what is right? There's a lot of truth in that whole message, that whole thought philosophy that he's bringing out. I would agree to a certain degree, because you have nature, you have nurture, you have environment, you have words, impactful words, you have experiences, right? So you have all of these different ways of information being presented to you and sent into you. So it may not all be based off of what your parents say and or do. Because if I am a child that is following, me and Mike are hanging out, doing whatever we do, and Mike becomes my influencer, then really the basis of who I become is going to be based off of my interactions with Mike, and probably a lot less than with my parents. The influence is such a great thing. And when we start talking about it as a child, influence is huge. Now we've got this huge word now, and I call it a huge word now because people are making millions of dollars off of this one word and becoming this and taking on this one job. And it's like, what is it? Influencer, becoming an influencer. And it used to be a time when you had people like Kobe Bryant who said, I don't want, it was either Kobe Bryant or LeBron James. Somebody fact checked me, but I believe it was one of the two of them who stated, I don't want to be a role model. I think it was one of the two of them. And if it wasn't
Charles Barkley.
Charles Barkley, thank you. Fact check me all up and down his place. Charles Barkley, I don't want to be an influencer, right? The Dennis Rodman, Charles Barkley's of the day. I don't want to be an influencer. Why? Because I know everything, well, for whatever their reason, but maybe it's because everything that I'm doing doesn't need to be followed. I'm just trying to be me. But the bottom line is that I'm in the limelight. I'm in the limelight. You can't make me become an influencer. But now we have people who are becoming influencers and they are influencing people in any way, shape, or form that they feel is necessary. Words do matter. And this is one of those heavy topics that we have to discuss, especially when we start diving into, identity, diving into, you mentioned the word feminism, masculinity. When we start diving into those words, a lot of that comes down to the influence inside of that person's mind. Are they influencing themselves? Is it their environment? Is it their parents? Is it their friends? Is it the experiences that they have? What is it that is causing them to become the person that they become? So I think that that's something that you have to look into, Jomer. I know you got some more stuff up there. What else did he put up there?
I'll just, Jomer, there's three things that pretty much influence a person's way. And so the parents, absolutely, specifically the mother, in the womb, what your mother's around, so on and so forth. But if you want to jump really into it and you want to do some research on your own, it's biology, it's cultural, and it's environment. Those pretty much shape the way that you kind of see things. And a lot of these things are by the time you're 7. By the time you're 7 and you're to 10, that's why you'll see the majority of people. The majority of people will have taken on their mother's religion. A lot of their mothers, especially in our community, and I'm going to say the Black community, but it's pretty much all. You'll see most people take on their mother's religion, their mother's way, because in Western society, especially in this day and age, that has been pushed so much as far as the woman being the head of, kind of the head of household in the kind of way, especially in the Black community. So you'll start to see them, and once it's there, it's over. Like, not, Lord forgive me. Once they get to that bias of whatever it was, then they'll go. But biology, because that shapes a lot of how you are. Shouts out to Elijah. Biology, that'll shape a lot the way you are. Your environment, to the brother's point, when you go out in the world and you're hanging around someone as charismatic as Joel, that's going to kind of shape the way that you are. And then, of course, the culture. So those three things are going to shape your ideals and your foundation. Once again, by the time you're 7 and 8, if you grew up like me on the bench of the church while my mother was there and having to stay there all day on Sunday from 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock, you're going to hear a lot of church things come out of my mouth because so it's interesting. All right. What was it? What else we have on there?
Another question from Debbie right there.
Jomer also said, because I think we missed that part. He said, I heard teaching that say generations today don't really know how to listen, but they love to imitate. This is not a current phenomenon, Jomer. Children repeat what they hear and they mimic what they see. That's been since time memorial. Children repeat what they hear and they mimic what they see. So this generation today, every generation said that. If you went to the silent generation, to the baby boomers, they thought those people were crazy. Come around Woodstock time, we came from a place where there was the Great Depression. The food is we didn't have food. We went through all these different wars. That's the silent generation. Then they went to baby boomers, and baby boomers were getting out and trying to figure out themselves. And you hear about Woodstock and so-called hippies. They thought those people were crazy. And then you had Generation X, and the baby boomers thought Generation X was crazy. The millennials were the next ones that were crazy. And then you got Gen Y, Z, and the millennials are looking at Gen Y and Z in a certain kind of way. I'm looking at my brother who was born in 92, same mother, same father, 10 years apart. And I'm like, you got to be a nut. What's that? I'm a millennial, sir. So I'm looking at you asked me what generation I am. I look at my son. You know, what is he? Generation Z. And I'm like, he doesn't listen. When we take a step back and we see that, because the patterns are the same, the patterns don't change. When we take a step back and we look at it, we can start to have compassion for these different generations. So I'm glad that was an awesome question. So appreciate you asking that.
Love it, love it. Let's show Debbie's comment one more time. You know, that she was talking about while we had the parent conversation going on. You know, she just said parents aren't perfect as a child. There are challenges in some cases throughout life. Breaking the chain around you is key. I love that comment. I love that comment. And it takes something out of self, right? In order for you to be able to break that chain, you have to first, number one, become aware that there is a chain, right? That there is a chain, that you're in the middle of a cycle, that you're going around in circles. So there is a little bit of an awareness thing that needs to happen.
Absolutely.
And I love what Mike was saying about, about those three things. What'd you say? Biology,
Culture.
and environment and culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'd like to also add to that one, experience, emotional experience. I think that's in the class of itself. Maybe arguable, but I think so. And I just think that those things are very powerful because, like Debbie, when you start thinking about it, if you can't see it, you can't see it. That's why ever since 2020, coaches have just like sprung up everywhere because it's all about the blind spot, right? I mean, what I can see in front of me is what I can see in front of me. There's a chance that I might not even know what I'm looking at in front of me if I've never seen whatever it is before in the first place. But I mean, how about those blind spots? Those of us that are driving, that blind spot in that back right corner or that back left corner, that one becomes very, very challenging while we're driving on the highway. And I don't know how many people have driven and then nearly hit that one individual in that back right corner. She wants you to know who it is. I like her. I like her. She wants you to know who it is, right?
Yeah. Shouts out to Debbie. Debbie is a title, one of my title people. Always, I mean, we've had some deep conversations outside. Like it's real estate, but we've had some deep and awesome conversations. So shout out to Debbie.
Yeah.
Over there.
Listen, man, I think that's I think it's right as par for the course. If we're having difficulty breaking the chain and whatever's going on, then I think that, like we've talked about before, start to think about what's going on in your life. Journal. It's a good way of being able to see some things. Another thing is like seeing a coach. Another good thing, priest, pastor, somebody. We talked about that influential word, but you got to start seeing what it is that you want to develop, who you want to be. Words are huge, man. I don't know about you, but maybe it might be something that we might need to start pulling this on in. But Debbie, oh man, she put some more stuff. Let me see what she said.
Yeah.
I have a nonprofit for women who have been mentally, emotionally abused. That's it. So like, ladies, see Debbie, and I don't know what her testimony is. Mike would be able to attest more to that. But she's even talking about something different than just real estate. This nonprofit, it's people like Debbie, people like my mother. Shout out to my mom, Marie Jenkins, who have created these different types of programs to help people that are going through different types of stresses. It's like people like Mike and myself who created the community beacon so that we can be able to reach out to people and be able to share some of these things so that you can get ahead in life and not get bogged down. I think that at the end of the day, as we start to pull this thing into a close, talking about what is love, I think we got into it a little bit. We're going to get into it more. But when it comes down to words of affirmation or negation, then just remember that your words do matter. Encouraging words create a nurturing atmosphere. And I think Mike was hitting on that especially. So where your friends, your families feel valued, I think that where a person feels valued, they will actually internalize more. So if you find yourself in a place where you don't feel valued, then it's a good chance that you need to leave that place. And if you are around people that you do value, but they express themselves in a way where they feel as if where they are expressing themselves as not feeling valued, they continuously tell you, I feel like nobody cares and things like that. Well, then you have to increase the value around that individual. And remember, it's kind of like if you go to your refrigerator, get a bottle of Coke out, pour it into a glass, and then put it underneath the tap water, and then pour water into it, and watch how long it takes for that Coca-Cola really to come out. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes we put so much, or they have put, an individual has allowed so much negativity inside of their body, their mind, their soul, that it takes so much more positivity to flow inside of them before the negativity is actually released. So just think about that when we're trying to help somebody or when we're helping ourselves. Another thing, parents who affirm their children, they help to build that confidence in their children. A reminder what Mike was saying, a lot of stuff needs to happen before the turn age of 7 or 8, but it needs to be continued. Don't stop, don't stop. You need to continue to be there. Um, and then, like, as far as the workplace goes, I know that there's a lot more encouraging words in the workplace, but it's a real thing. People, we just had an experience where my wife was working with somebody who appeared as if they were doing well, and they committed suicide. So, look for those markers. I was just working with somebody who ended up who went down a different pathway and got released from the workplace because of that. So it's like there's so many different things that are going on. I'm gonna say this, and this will be my closing comment for today, Mike. Um, Gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. That's Proverbs 16 and 14. I've been blessed to be here with you all today. Um, Mike, what you say?
Shouts out. I'm seeing Jomer mentioned he knows a great coach, so DM him. This is what I say. Martin Lawrence did a movie called There's a Thin Line Between Love and Hate.
Hmm.
And that movie and those words, nothing truer has been spoken. So it's not, we don't have to play these different mental gymnastics of how to and what not to do. It's quite simple. And the brother and us, we've been saying this for a while. A lot of the stuff is quite simple. It may not necessarily be easy. Focus on yourself.
Hmm.
Stop looking to help other people if you need it within yourself, because that's a form of hate. I think that's a form of hate. If you're not taking care of yourself, I gotta say in myself, if I'm not right, nothing's right,
Hmm.
because everything else comes from a place that I don't want it to come from. I hear what people saying. You should serve. I'm not telling you don't serve, don't do the best you can. However, where it comes from, and it's what you're doing for most people is that you're taking the attention off of something that you needed, because if someone's doing something and it resonates within yourself, there's something there. Take some time out, work on yourself, check yourself. Where is this coming from? Resolve it within yourself. And I'm telling you, once you resolve it within yourself, most of the time when you go around, you don't have to play these games of figuring out what's the best thing to say to someone, or what's not to say. Because sometimes you don't need to say anything at all. But just your presence, go back all the way back to that. That's what I said at the beginning. Just your presence becomes the healing, right? And then from that point on, everything comes forth. So take some time, do some deep breathing, start to love yourself, speak life into yourself, and
Hmm.
then from that point on, everything else will start to make sense. And if you really need it, go and then you go find you a coach or find you a mentor or find you something. But what's going to also happen is that a lot of the people who don't have that about themselves are going to start to fall away. And guess what? That is okay,
Hmm.
right? So because what you're doing is you're starting to curate an environment of peace. You're starting to curate a culture of peace. The biology, that's something different. So, man, that's my closing. I love it. I'm looking at the town of Mangonia, Miss Sherry. Shouts out to her. She sent me a text message saying I need to pay my water bill by Monday. So look at that. That's a labor of love for her, and I love her to death because she's always reminding me. So shouts out to Miss Sherry, and she lives in your neighborhood too. You
I,
probably pass her all the time.
I
Now that I'm
probably
thinking
do.
about it, yeah, she's an awesome lady. So man, I love you all. How about that? I think this community beacon and what we do is a labor of love for Joel and I because we're very appreciative of you all. Uh, Jomer's asking for your contact in case you got any questions or suggestions.
Yeah. Y'all just hey, if you want to get in touch with me, you can always DM me, jsimmons.tenacity on Instagram. DM me. Y'all go ahead and follow there.
The
All
brothers
right.
on Instagram.
Instagram. I
Shouts-
know Beethoven got me hard. What was that, a few months ago? He said, we finally got Joel on social media. It's for the business, Beethoven. That's it.
if he say so, okay, whatever.
Oh man,
If
wow,
he
my boy,
say
he done
so.
put me out there now.
Yeah, we appreciate you all, man. This is a great place for him to be. I think people have to see the brother's testimony, see what the brother brings, because one of the ways that we become aware of things is by other people's testimony. So when someone says, "Man, I went through this," or they explain it in a certain kind of way, we sit back and we're like, "Oh, so that," because oftentimes we don't know how to communicate that.
Hmm.
Right. So by seeing it, now we can communicate it because the brother has a way with words. He's very articulate. So the way he communicates it, it sits with you, right? It sits on you, it sits with you. And that's a part of the awareness process. Is when you see someone, you be like, and it sat on me, and I couldn't quite communicate it, or no one understands me when I communicate it. Boom, there you got Joel on Instagram, and you can communicate it with the brother.
Uh,
Tenacity Foundation on Instagram. Shouts out to Joe on Instagram. Man, other than that, I love you all. I'm telling you, from the bottom of my heart, I came and the brother mentioned this topic of love, and I sat down there. I said, this is the time for my animus. Y'all check out Carl Young. A lot of the stuff we don't really even have to keep going back and doing, but it's awesome falling back in love with the science. Go back and we awesome topic. We'll see. Maybe we love is an in-depth topic, so I'm sure we'll have a decent series on it as we move forward, man. We appreciate you, Debbie. We definitely Jomer. Anyone else who's the silent watchers, we appreciate you all as well. Hopefully this leaves footprints with you. We good?
mm, love it.
All right. Love y'all. Peace.